Hey, hey, it is T. Marie, your best life coach, and this is Your Best Podcast. This is where we discover and talk about and get introduced to all the ways that we can have our best. Today's topic is, does God care? Does God care? I think we've all wondered this, to be honest with you. Unless, of course, you're coming from a place of never having any kind of relationship with God, well, maybe it never crossed your mind. But for those of us that have felt, wanted, questioned, hoped, I think each and every one of us has had that moment where we said, does God even care? And it's a really important question to ask, actually, because I think that when we're asking, when we're wondering this, we're coming from a place of wanting to have a greater relationship. We're coming from a place of imagining that there can be a sense of intimacy, of love and joy, of relationship with God. And that's a really great place to be. But usually when we're asking ourselves this question, it's when we're feeling our lowest, when we're feeling more alone than ever, when we're feeling like something so tremendous has happened in life that we're just wondering, does God even care? Is God here? Is God listening? Why did this happen? What's going on? I know that I've felt let down by God before. It was terrible. It was heartbreaking. There's been a couple of times where I felt like, hey, I did the right thing and now this happened. What? I'm not sure what might have been the case for you, but one of the times this happened for me was with my middle son, Richard. When I had gotten pregnant with Richard, I didn't want to have a baby. I really, really wanted to have an abortion. It felt like the right thing to do. It felt like the necessary thing to do. I already had my daughter, and I thought that everything with her father and I thought that everything with life would be good. And it was everything but that. I found myself raising my daughter, even though he was around, I was raising her by myself, shouldering the burden of everything, of providing for us financially, of providing and caring for her, meaning all the tasks, taking care of her, changing her, feeding her, making sure she had everything that she needed and was safe. And also taking care of myself, keeping myself motivated, strong, helping myself or trying to help myself deal with the changes of life that inevitably happen when you become a parent. Now, some of you might be saying, well, what's so special about this? What would make you want to have an abortion? Don't all parents go through this? I believe that all parents do. But see, I was 16 at the time. And so my mental, emotional, physical, financial, every capacity in life for me at that time, I was only 16. And so this was a lot. Once I was pregnant again, even before I got pregnant again, I didn't want to have any more kids. And so I really, really felt that terminating the pregnancy was the best choice for me. At the time, everyone around me told me that that was a terrible thing to do and that I shouldn't do it. And so I chose not to do it. Even though in my heart, in my mind, in every fiber of my being, I felt like that was the right thing for me, I didn't do it. I listened to the people around me that said that they would help me, that it wouldn't be so hard, that they'd be there. But none of them were. None of them were. And then the unthinkable happened. I got sick during my pregnancy with Richard. I developed a condition called placenta previa. And that means that the placenta, which is the main source that kind of feeds the umbilical cord, it's the connection between the child and the mother while the child's an embryo that provides through then the umbilical cord all the nutrients for the baby to grow and everything. Well, that was resting right over the opening of my uterus into my cervix. It wasn't attached in like the wall where it's supposed to be. It was kind of over the opening. So the bigger Richard got, the more pressure he inadvertently put on that. And then it was causing all kinds of things like bleeding and danger for him and for me. Life-threatening danger. I was told I had to be on bed rest for the rest of the pregnancy. This was devastating. I was already a mother to a daughter. I was already needing to care for my house and earn money for us to have what we needed. This was devastating. And I was already in a position where I couldn't count on anyone. No one was keeping their word, and I didn't have any help. And so here I was, laying in bed, often staring a few feet over to my daughter in a crib who I couldn't pick up, I couldn't shower, I couldn't change. And I felt lonelier than ever. But something amazing happened. Now, this child that I didn't want at all was the only thing that I wanted. It was the only other entity in the world that understood what we were going through at this time because he was inside of me. And then, 3 months after he was born very sick. 3 months after he was born, after fighting for his life in the neonatal intensive care unit, he died. My sweet, beautiful, innocent son died. I was devastated. I was angry. You know what? I was pissed. How could this have happened? Why did this happen? Where was God? Does God even care? I did the right thing. I didn't get an abortion. I did the noble thing. How could this have happened? I was so angry, so hurt, so devastated. Sometimes things happen in our life that cause us to wonder if God even cares. It's a personal, intimate, gut-wrenching, terrible, traumatic experience. Someone does us wrong, or something happens like what I described, that we cannot believe that this is the universe that God exists in and that God still cares about us in, because if so, then why? How? What? The actual. And then sometimes people let us down so badly. Sometimes church members let us down so badly. Sometimes congregations let us down so badly. We're judged, cast aside, made fun of, ostracized. We're rallied against. There may be some of you that are listening now that just heard the word abortion and immediately had judgments about who I am and what my worth is and if I'm going to hell. And it's that real. Does God care? We all, I think, have had these questions rise up, this feeling rise up. And we're right to feel let down amidst all of this. How could we not feel let down amidst all of this? How could I not feel let down when that happened to Richard and to me? How could you, if you've been cast out, judged, mocked, bullied, blamed, sometimes in the name of God. How could you not feel that way? You're a human with values and worth and emotions. No one wants to be hurt, judged, left out, lonely, let down. There are solutions, though, to this, to answering these questions, to overcoming these emotions. We talked a little bit about it in episode 9. Now we're going to talk about it a little bit more. I know for me now, at this stage, decades later, years later, I can see that there was powerful things happening in my life at that time. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be difficult for some people to hear, but sometimes, in my case anyway, there was grace in Richard's passing. You see, Richard was very sick. And the way that he passed was that his blood couldn't carry the oxygen around in his body. That's ultimately the reason why he died. I don't know if medicine has answers for this. At that time, they did not. It was a slow and arduous way to see him go, hooked up to machines that were trying so hard to fill his lungs with air, but his blood, just the capacity for his blood to carry the oxygen around in his body, continued to diminish over those short days that we had left together. So, if he would, could I even say if he would have survived? There's grace. There's grace. There's grace in him being ushered away into a better place where he isn't suffering, where if breaths were needed, he could take them all. And there was grace for me. In that crazy time where I went from not wanting him to only wanting him to forging away, I still was only 16. On my own, already the mother to another child, doing the best I could. There was grace. Something seeing things I couldn't see. There was grace. And then in my relationship with God, you see, every relationship, every real relationship has levels to it. If you think you're in a relationship with someone and you've never been mad at them, you've never been annoyed at them, you've never been having to have a tough conversation, honey, you're not in a relationship yet. That's not a judgment. It's just a reality. In order for us to have a relationship, we have to have relations. We've got to go from different states of thinking, being, emoting, and actually make it to the next stage. That's what a relationship is. And I'll tell you something. I was pissed. I was so angry at God for what had happened. I couldn't believe he had put me through that, put Richard through that. What was this? Some kind of dumb joke? But there was grace. Now I know that God can handle my anger. God can handle my questions. God can handle my doubts and fears. I know that intimately because I've walked that with him. And he's seen me through then and still to this day. I know that God can handle me saying that I wanted to have an abortion and what was going on because he was there. I know that because we have been in a relationship. because I have been different states with God. There was grace. Now, I'm not telling you what to believe. How could I? I'm not in your shoes. I'm not in your heart. But I am here to tell you that if you're wondering, like, does God even care? You're not alone. You're not alone. If you've done something that is like so bad and so wrong, if you've had thoughts like wanting to have an abortion, or you had an abortion, or you've done other things, you've been on drugs, you've lied, you've stolen, God was there. You're known intimately. I can say that because I've lived that, and I know that I'm no more special than you. Be encouraged. You're in a safe place. Be encouraged. Most people that believe in God won't share these stories. They won't talk about this stuff. They'll just talk about, yeah, I accepted Jesus and everything's good and we're all blessed and I'm all good and I have faith and I pray and I go to church and hallelujah. And all that's real and it's good and it's right and it's awesome, but that's not all there is. If you're wondering, does God care? There isn't a believer on this earth that has not had that same question, that has not had that same feeling, that has not cried in the dark amidst all of life's problems and wondered, are you even there? Do you see me? Can you hear me? What the F? I keep it 100 and we'll do that until the end. And I'm telling you right now, that's the real relationship. Don't believe the lies that make you feel like you're opposite or you're cast out or you're wrong because you have these emotions. You're human, and all of us do. All of us do. Most won't admit it, especially once they take on that label of being a believer or a Christian or someone that follows God or someone that loves God. Most won't admit it because most still are under the trap of feeling like they can't admit it. But let me tell you something. God sees everything. You may not admit it. I may not admit it, but that doesn't prevent God from seeing it. And God's just seeing it and saying, when are you going to admit it? That's the beauty of this whole thing. You're not alone. You're not alone, man. A lot can change. A lot can change in our faith walk, in our spiritual walk, in our relationship with God. Even that, there's people that would judge me because I call it being spiritual. And I get it, because spiritual covers a lot of things. Spiritual covers Wiccans and pagans and atheists and people that believe in crystals and all this stuff. And you know what? I don't care. Because for me, spiritual means I want to have a relationship with God. I want it to be about my spirit in relationship with God, not about religion, not about dogma, not about what I'm told I should believe. I want to have a real relationship with God, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, with my faith, with my prayer life. I want to be able to ask questions. I want to be able to prove that what God says is real and true. I want to see for myself and read for myself. And I want to know that when I'm living this sometimes very hard life with very crazy things that cause me to wonder if God cares, that I can actually go to God and have a relationship and have a conversation and invite God into it and get an answer. I believe that that is what spiritual is, because I certainly do not identify with being religious. How about you? A lot can change. A lot can change. For me, it's been about an emotional change. It's been about a mental change. It's been about a physical change. It's been about a faithful change that has allowed me to open up to new experiences that I never thought possible. Prayers that get answered immediately. Supernatural, miraculous help that presents itself in the real world as plain as I can see my face, my hands. A lot can change. A lot can change. If you're wondering if God cares, a lot can change. changed for me. And like I said before, it's not because I'm special. I'm special, but so are you. There is no one of us more special than another person. There is no one of us closer than someone else. We're as close as we want to be. We're as close as we act. Sometimes that just means, God, do you even care? I'm asking you. Come on. I don't know what you're thinking about this particular podcast episode. Maybe it's the first time you've ever heard somebody talk about God in this way. Maybe it isn't, and it's just so regular and comfortable for you. Maybe you're filled with judgments all of a sudden about me, about what this all means, about what I'm about. I welcome it all. Maybe, hopefully, if you've had this question on your heart, you know that you have a home. You know that you're not alone. You know that you're seen. You know that there are others like you. Welcome. Does God even care? I can tell you, yes, I've lived it, but I'd really love to show you. You know, with my spiritual coaching, that's what that's all about, you know? Sometimes it's learning how to pray. A lot of times it's laying down the past hurts, the things that caused us to feel and be separate in the first place. I can tell you for me, when that happened with Richard, for years I was separate with God. For years. That anger, that hurt, it took a long time before I even started to try to trust God again. I was angry. And you want to know the irony? Is that in my anger with God, I actually would engage in activities that were hurtful to myself. Drugs, alcohol. Yeah, this is your best podcast, and I'm your best life coach. But I wasn't born this way. This is conceived out of the realities that I've lived through and guided people through over the years. I'm only at the other side of the valley because I went through the valley. The reason why I bring that up is that I think it's pretty funny that a lot of us, when we're hurt, when we've experienced traumatic events, when people have really let us down, abused us, molested us, taken advantage of us, when we've had great loss, when there's been things that have been just so traumatic, oftentimes we engage in behavior that actually continues to hurt us. And I don't know, but I believe that this is because in each and every one of our hearts and souls, deep, deep down inside, deep, we actually know that that's where God lives. God lives in you. God lives in me. God gives us life. There is nothing that we can do to live an extra moment. If you've ever known anyone that is dying, they will tell you. If you've ever known anyone that is sick, they will tell you. So if you're wondering if God cares, I can tell you that He does. And I'd love to show you, along with my other spiritual coaching clients, how you can really feel, see, sense, and live that. It's amazing. It's amazing. God is so many things. Friend, partner, teacher, protector, guider, creator. So many things, more things than I can mention. One thing I can tell you for sure. God is filled with love. So if you're wondering, does God care? Does God care about my life? Does God care about what's happened to me? Does God care about those people that did me wrong? I can tell you that He does. But like I said, I'd love to show you. I welcome you always to stay connected. To stay connected, there are a wide variety of avenues for you to stay connected with this podcast, by subscribing, by connecting with me via my website, tmarie.com, or for coaching at bestlifecoaching.online. And then, of course, we know all about the social world. God cares for you. If you don't feel that now, my heart, my love goes out to you. I intimately know what that feels like. My hope is that you don't feel alone, that you've spent this time with me, and that you can hopefully see that you're not alone. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I welcome them. Just send them over to me. Contact me on my contact page at my website. And before we leave, know this. You are loved. You are wanted. You are special. You have gifts and talents and purpose. You were made beautifully, wonderfully, designed specifically for this date and time. You truly are magnificent, one of a kind. There isn't anything, anyone that's like you. You are cared for. You are deeply cared for. Be encouraged, beloved, and reach out. I'd love to get to know you more. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe and visit tmarie.com/free for more goodness. Woohoo!